Displaying Sunna, Abu Ishaq al-Shatibi's concept of Bid'ah in his Al-Itiṣām, McGill University, 1999. Actual title, Abu Ishaq al-Shatibi's Reformulation of the Concept of Bid'ah, a study of his Iʻtiṣām by Asif Saifuddin Jahar. Introduction. Abu Ishaq al-Shatibi, who lived between 720 to 790, 790 being commensurate with 1388, was one of the most influential scholars of the Maliki school in Andalusia in general, and Cordova in particular. His significance lies in his contribution to the reformulation of Islamic legal theories, particularly the notion of bid'ah, which is religious innovation. One of his most important works on Islamic law is al-Iʻtiṣām, which expounds in particular the relationship between the notions of al-maslaha al-mursala and istihsan to bid'ah. In this work, he discusses the nature of the latter in Islamic law and argues that bid'ah was strictly forbidden. Prior to Shatibi, At-Turtushi, who died in 474, which is 1081, also rejected bid'ah, but did not differentiate between a novelty and an innovation, muhdatha and bid'ah. However, Shatibi's distinction between adiyat, customs, and ibadat, ritual practice, allowed him to restrict the scope of bid'ah by redefining its concept into bid'ah haqiqiyya, real bid'ah, and bid'ah idafiyya, relative bid'ah. Al-Iʻtiṣām was written in response to charges by his contemporaries that he was an innovator, i.e., someone who deviated from the true path of religion. In this work, Shatibi does indeed seek to formulate a novel epistemology of bid'ah, in which he rejects the notion of bid'ah hasana. To compensate for this, however, he borrowed the concept of sunnah hasana, a good tradition. His argument in al-Iʻtiṣām is interrelated with his earlier work on legal theory, al-Muwafaqat. While his unique approach to the concept of bid'ah was not limited to the legal field, its implications for innovation in the Shari'iyya were especially profound, and entailed greater reliance on reason and humanistic considerations. The theory of al-maslaha al-mursala and istihsan, for example, are seen as compatible with the Shari'iyya and cannot be categorized as bid'ah hasana. However, the main purpose behind his writing of this theoretical exposition was to criticize the Sufis for what he believed to have been a rigid and unduly demanding application of the law on the one hand, and the jurists who were too lenient in issuing fatwas on the other. In response to this situation, Shatibi's theory therefore aimed at restoring the law, which he thought had been corrupted by two extreme practices: the lax attitudes of jurisconsults and the excessive legal demands imposed by the majority of contemporary Sufis. Al-Shatibi divides bid'ah into two types. The first is an innovation in the religion that resembles the way of the Shari'iyya. The second is an innovation in adiyat, customs, with an intention similar to that of the Shari'iyya. Whenever innovation deals with religious matters without any clear indication, dalil shar'i, from the Shari'iyya, it should be considered bid'ah. Whenever the novelty, muhdatha, deals exclusively with adiyat, mundane matters, it cannot be considered bid'ah. Shatibi, furthermore, does not consider all muhdathas as prohibited. Whether they are or not hinges on the intention and the correct understanding of the purpose of the Shari'iyya. If the act and the intention conform to the purpose of the Shari'iyya, the act is valid. On the other hand, if the act and intention violate the Shari'iyya, the act is invalid. If only the intention conforms to the Shari'iyya and the act does not, the act is qualified as bid'ah. If the act conforms but the intention does not, the act falls into the category of hypocrisy. Shatibi disagrees with jurists who identify al-maslaha al-mursala and al-istihsan as bid'ah. According to him, both al-maslaha al-mursala and istihsan and bid'ah are opposed to each other. Al-maslaha al-mursala and istihsan are compatible with the Shari'iyya and therefore do not fall under the heading of bid'ah. Shatibi thus showed that acceptable masalih cannot be equated with bid'ah, and that they are not limited in the scope of daruri, things that are necessary, as some jurists maintained. In fact, the above elaboration on al-maslaha al-mursala conforms to Shatibi's concept of maslaha. Maslaha is benefit, general benefit, which is of a fundamental significance in his doctrine of maqasid al-shar'iyya. Maqasid al-shar'iyya is the intents of the law. Shatibi elsewhere confirms the primacy of the Quran over other sources of law. Even the Sunnah seems merely a footnote to the Quran. Moreover, Al-Shatibi admits that the nature of adiyat, which are not specified and prescribed in these two sources, might change according to time and place. Furthermore, while the Shari'iyya remains infallible and is based upon unchanging principles of Shari'iyya, nevertheless, the social customs may change. As long as we know that there are several scholars who study the Shatibi's works, which mostly concentrate on legal theory, they include the work of Ahmed Sunni, which is translated in English, and it's called Nadhariyat al-Maqasid inda Imam Shatibi, 1995. Hamadi al-Ubaidi, al-Shatibi wal-Maqasid al-Shar'iyya, which is published in Tripoli, 1992. And M.K. Mas'ud, Islamic Legal Philosophy, Study of Abu Ishaq al-Shatibi's Life and Thought, which was published in Islamabad, 1977, based upon a thesis done in McGill. These works, focusing on legal theory and al-Shatibi's thought in general, do not touch specifically on the question of the concept of bid'ah, a subject with which al-Shatibi was greatly concerned. This study is therefore the first attempt to delve into Shatibi's standpoint on the concept of bid'ah, as expressed in his book al-Iʻtiṣām. This thesis is comprised of 3 chapters. The first deals with the purpose and significance of al-Iʻtiṣām in terms of Shatibi's legal theory. This is set in context to a discussion on bid'ah up to Shatibi's time. It also focuses on its relationship to his earlier work, al-Muwafaqat. Moreover, it elaborates on al-Shatibi's response to his critics and the subject of bid'ah. The second chapter discusses the conceptual framework which al-Shatibi worked out for bid'ah. It analyzes the different distinctions he made between certain acts of ritual practice, ibadat, and customs, adiyat. However, Shatibi also differentiated between real, hakiki, and relative, idafi, bid'ah, a distinction which forms the main topic of our discussion in this chapter. The third chapter focuses upon the compatibility of al-Maslaha al-Mursala and istihsan with Islamic law according to Shatibi's understanding. This matter pertains to his contention that Maslaha al-Mursala and istihsan do not retain the characteristics of bid'ah. The conclusion seeks to answer the questions of whether or not al-Shatibi's concept of bid'ah in al-Iʻtiṣām in fact reveals a new epistemology compared to that of earlier scholars. Stay tuned for many more parts.